Today we have a milky oolong courtesy of Paru from La Jolla, California. Corn milk and soybean are added to the roasting stage of this oolong tea, resulting in a naturally creamy and sweet texture and flavor. 1 teaspoon, 3 to 5 minutes in hot water, so let's call it 5 minutes. I'm trying out a new format for this video, as I just want to share my experience with this phone in the time it takes to make a proper cup of tea. So, feel free to follow along with me and then go about your day afterwards with a mindful cup when we're done. And also let me know what you're sipping on in the comments, and hit the like button for this shorter format while subscribing to know when the rest of my videos come out. So let's get started, because it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here we are, my thoughts on the Nothing Phone 2a Plus. It's hard to have a conversation about anything Nothing puts out without talking about the design. After all, making significant changes to the established way that we expect smartphones to look and feel could be a little bit polarizing. But these phones that Nothing puts out manages to come off as cool, no matter how you look at it. In terms of shape and feel, it's a regular bar phone with comfortable enough ergonomics for one-handed use, but the transparent backing makes all the difference in providing a unique experience. Going plus with this phone does mean a more metallic color has been added to the elements underneath that backing, and I do have this gray edition, so it's pretty much metallic all over. And because of the look that a phone like this can have, maybe minimalism is a little harder to prescribe this time around. It's always been an interesting dichotomy when it comes to Nothing devices. They tout a more minimalistic tech lifestyle while making products that absolutely stand out. This phone lights up a table or a pocket, both figuratively and literally thanks to the returning Glyph interface. These lights here are still a signature of Nothing phones, though this is just an A-series device, and thus the array isn't as robust as on its higher tier flagship siblings. But still, the Glyphs have their definite uses. Flip to Glyph automatically silences the phone and makes the light strips the main way for you to know that something is coming through via notifications. If you harken back to the days of a simple LED light at the top of an Android phone or even an old BlackBerry device, you'll get a sense of how useful something like this can be. But my favorite use of these lights has been the Glyph timer. You might have seen it earlier. It's just a visual flair to an otherwise mundane task, like setting a timer for steeping tea for 5 minutes. Or as I recently got to experience, the Glyph lights worked really well as a flashlight during a recent concert that I went to. Overall, we're really familiar with a lot of the Plus thanks to the Nothing Phone 2a that came before it, just with some slight adjustments to the design and to a couple of specs underneath. I mean, out front, we're still getting the same 6.7-inch AMOLED display that looks great and still has a 120Hz refresh rate, making it a good canvas for media viewing and playing games at the higher frame rates. That is, if you're able to stomach some of the performance woes that a mid-range device like this can have. Now, don't get me wrong, by and large, anyone that picks up this phone will have a good experience across the board. The main update to the Nothing Phone 2a Plus is in the processor, which gets a bump up to the MediaTek Dimensity 7350. As suspected, I felt plenty of power for everyday tasks and browsing while experiencing some sputtering under the heaviest of workloads. The large vapor chamber does its best, it seems, but the tail end of a long Zenless Zone Zero play session always feels a little less snappy compared to the beginning. And sometimes when I'm playing YouTube in picture-in-picture, opening up other apps like, let's say, Google Maps, makes me wait a little bit longer for my results and directions. That being said, for the vast majority of people who might be able to get their hands on one of these, it's got more than enough power and juice via the 5000 mAh battery to last for full days of typical usage. What that processor powers properly, however, is a take on Android that might be an easy favorite. Nothing's OS is where the philosophy of minimalism actually starts to come through, with the dot matrix elements atop dark backgrounds in an aesthetic that is supposed to be visually striking while removing some of the sensory overstimulation of typical app icon drawers and home screens. If you opt in for the full official icon pack from Nothing in the Play Store, it furthers the notion that monochrome home screens and icons make it easier for you to be more mindful of your usage of the smartphone. I know some of you may not really prescribe to that, but I think it's true, and science does back that up. At the very least, it blends in very well with the homegrown signature widgets and apps that have encouraged me to genuinely customize the home screen launcher to my liking. Beyond these aesthetic choices, however, Nothing have jumped into the AI realm a little with the interesting news reporter widget. It's a bit too simple for its intended purpose, in my opinion, which is to give an AI-generated summary of top news stories in curated categories using the voice of an actual Nothing exec.
I'm Tim, the CFO, and I'm stuck reading this out every day. Guess you could say I'm the Nothing expert.
It's certainly a nice way of showcasing the summarization capabilities of an AI model, but without much personalization over what news I'm getting, aside from just the various categories that are there. I feel like I was using the widget during moments of boredom rather than for the purpose of actually getting informed. But overall, the Nothing Phone 2A satisfies much of what an everyday user might need from a phone without asking too much of your wallet. There are some compromises, of course, both inherent due to the nature of a mid-range processor, and let's call it unavoidable via the decent camera optics. The selfie camera does get a spec up and 4K video recording, but the fact remains that pictures and videos out of this phone are simply just good enough. Misses happen as often as hits, but I will say that when the main sensor hits, it really hits. The few times I found myself really impressed with the photo coming out of the Nothing Phone 2A Plus and the Nothing Phone 2A before it kept me from writing it off too hard as a way of capturing some good memories. So what is the problem with a phone that manages this kind of package at an accessible price? Well, it's all in that word, accessible. For a brand that is really starting to gain traction in the States due to its hype machine and audio products, Nothing is still unable to provide their phones with the same level of accessibility. $399 is a really good price for what you get here, but it's only available through the Nothing beta program, and even then, the phone might not work perfectly on your network in the US. Make sure you do your due diligence and make sure this solid and attractive phone is able to work properly for you. Otherwise, the enticing affordability of the Phone 2A Plus might be nothing more than a dream again, at least for now, hopefully. I went a little long, but the tea is officially ready. With all that said, let me know what you think of the Nothing Phone 2A Plus, especially if you managed to get one for yourself. But with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thanks so much for hanging out with me again today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.